going to talk about, Jeff?
Today we are going to talk about getting your home ready for the spring market.
It is a very important thing, and I think that sometimes people don't realize that getting a home ready for the market needs a lead time. I sold my townhome, what was it, about
In April?
March?
Yeah, April, I think.
But there was a lot of stuff that was done ahead of time. Like, I guess I'll just jump into that. So I started with the front yard and really began focusing on how did it work from the curb appeal. And I went ahead and laid brand new sod, planted a Japanese maple and a hedge, just because I was trying to think about what a buyer sees when they walk up to it. Because so many times we've been in a house for so long, we've come in and out that front door, 1,000 times that we kind of get blinded. And so Jeff came over, and it was good to have a second set of eyes kind of help me through that. And so that's one of the things that we really try to do with all of our clients.
Yeah, it is. And we can have a house on the market in about 10 days if we need to, but a lot of times
It's quick.
it is quick, but people, there's work that needs to be done. And, one of the conversations we have with a lot of people talks about the improvements that they should do to their condo or do to their home or townhouse, whatever they're selling. And what is the return on those going to be?
Right.
Because, people that are not in the construction industry or not in the remodeling industry don't have access to necessarily all of those trades.
Right.
And in many times you do need to have a general contractor who kind of coordinates everything. And then that adds another layer of cost on whatever you're doing. So renovations to most people, you're not going to get a dollar for dollar return back on them.
And then sometimes it can be just as simple as us coming through the house and like working through what you currently have and how does that look to a buyer, and how do we allow a buyer to walk into a property and see themselves moving forward with that.
Yes.
And so there are things that we can do to help that get that started. But I think the other thing too is having the pedigree of the house ready.
Absolutely.
And I think that that's just important, because one of the things that Jeff and I have noticed is that not only buyers are buyers, but buyers agents don't feel comfortable making offers until all the information is there. And so I think it's really critical when Jeff and I sit down to kind of go over what we think will help create that pedigree that we put online.
Yes. And one of the other things that is really important to focus on is light in homes and how to create or just use the light that you have access to.
It is an interesting thing, especially when a space is a little bit smaller. I've known that it was one of the first things I noticed when I was in real estate was that buyers, when they couldn't figure out why they didn't like something, it was typically because the house seemed dim. And so many times when Jeff and I sit down, we have the last thing that we talk about before a house goes live is we call it light, camera, action. And it's the time when we really go over the last set of reminders on how are we going to hit all the senses? How are we going to create a sticky time and have our buyers really stay longer?
Right. And, part of that is just like you were talking about a while ago, where sometimes we get used to people they live in a house and they walk through it and they see things, or they don't see things that we know everybody else is going to see. And so as part of that getting ready process, think about as if you didn't live there, go out to the street, think about as if you're pulling up. How do you see the house from that perspective? Are there, weak spots? Is there some wood that needs to be replaced? Is some painting touch up that needs to be done? And many times those types of renovations need to be done because you might not get the dollar for dollar return on those, but what they do allow happen is that the buyer doesn't necessarily start discounting your home right away and taking money away from what their perceived value of it is because of those things they see.
And the best thing that can happen is multiple offers. There's nothing better than multiple offers. It really does. I would say it's a strong set or a position for the seller to be in. So it really helps. And a lot of the planning prior to market is in efforts to achieve those multiple offers.
True.
Well, what do you guys got?
Can I go on?
You can do it. Absolutely. What else you got?
Well, one of the things that, I think we've seen make a really big difference with a lot of people is just cleaning windows. I mean, have a professional window cleaner come in and do it front to back. We did it at my house one year before one of our holiday parties or client appreciation parties. And it was amazing to me what a difference that made in just how I perceive my own house, day to day.
It is the most interesting thing. So right before I sold the townhome, I had the windows cleaned, and it was new construction. And so I was like, it's
Newer, it's
newer,
2 years old.
2 years old. I was like, can't make that big of a difference. Night and day. It is amazing. So yes, Jeff is absolutely right. If there is a huge takeaway, it is window cleaners.
Yes. And the last thing I'd like to add is just like from the cosmetic redo or refreshing. Um, there are times when you need to do those things, but again, those are many times they're things you're not going to get the dollar for dollar return back on.
Right.
So think about those things, and also a friend of mine and I were talking yesterday about building new construction, and one of the things that he remembered was that you really have to build it for who the buyer is. You're not building it based necessarily on your own taste or your own. You really have to know what's going on in the marketplace, and that's another place that we get to come in and help.
I think that you're absolutely right. And I'm going to add one more thing as well. I think that many times sellers want to do X, Y, and Z to a home, but that the market doesn't reflect the increase that they've done to it. And so someone thinks that they need to remodel bathrooms, or they think that they need to upgrade the kitchen in a certain format. But when comps are pulled, because that's what we're going to do, that we're going to look at it as an appraiser would. And so if it's stretched above and beyond, thinking that you're going to be able to be the one to break the trend and increase it, it's not always as easy as that. So that's one of those things that we'd like to be really specific with before anything is spent.
I agree. So if you have any specific questions about things to do to get your house ready for the market, please reach out to us. As I said earlier, we would love to interview the job to sell your house for you. It is something we do every day, and I think we do really well.
And just remember, we want to be realtors for life.